So does anybody have any other questions about the trademarks right now? Copyrights, my least favorite part. The reason I don't like copyrights, I'm a patent attorney, I like patents. Patents have a description, every patent looks exactly the same. There's an abstract, there's a background, there's a summary, there's a brief description of the drawing, and then there's a detailed specification, and then there are claims. And the claims are numbered. And if the patent attorney is really good, then there's little sub, A, B, and concrete, and there's needs and bounds. Trademarks get a little fuzzier, but there are parameters. They have to be attached to certain goods and services. They have to, they have to be used, and they have to be consistently used. And then you get the trademark, and then you get the copyright. And there are rules. I got to use the air quotes when I say there are rules. So the way I describe it is, trying to understand patents is if I take a ball, a cricket ball, fairly easy to catch the ball, wrap your hands around a patent. Copyright for trademarks, it's like throwing a water balloon. Be a little more careful, spend a little more time. You can understand trademarks. It's like catching a water balloon. Wrapping your head around copyrights is like I threw you water. But threw you water is catching. That's how copyrights. There's no meets and bounds to it. And this is where all the artists live. You people live. The creative, and there's not hard rules when it comes to that kind of creativity. And that makes my life harder. So again, they are original works of authorship, but they have to be fixed. That's really important. A lot of times they aren't fixed. So we have things most people think of. Literary, part of that becomes character. Mickey Mouse is protected by copyright. Music, and you'd be amazed. This is how federal copyrights are. When you buy a CD, the laundry lists. Not buy a CD. I'm sorry, nobody buys CDs anymore. When you buy an album, multiple MP3, the laundry list of different copyrights. There's a copyright for the lyrics. There's a copyright for the music. There's a copyright for the arrangement. And then, if you actually bought an album, there's a copyright in the cover art, and then all these other things. There are so many different copyrights that go into that thing that you just think is a song.
Because I've heard format copyrights where you can name yourself and others, post stamped by the government.
That's format patent.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't.
It doesn't work.
So if I just copy and paste that symbol into something I'm working on, it's like copyright.
No, that's simple. There's really, for example, actually, I should back up. Just like trademarks, there's the R, and then there's the TM. R means you're registered. Do not use R unless you're registered. Okay, TM, you can put TM in anything you want. You can put TM on the word "the" if you don't have no legal significance. You can always use TM. For copyright, that indicates registration. But you don't have to register copyrights and trademarks. You should. I'm going to get to why you should register. But you want to put copyright.
Is there any legal? Do I have any legal weight? I say no. I put it. See the scope on it. No.
Well, there used to be. They actually used to be critical. Now at the bottom, for example, you want to write out copyright 2013, and then the name of your company. Okay. You want to put that on everything. And again, you won't get in trouble if you put that down and you didn't create anything on the page. I mean, if you stole it, you may be a copyright owner, but you won't be in trouble for putting a copyright notice on it.
But if I did that on my website, someone else came around the next day and created a website with the exact same name and did the same thing, I mean, who's legally right beyond the law? Just might put that, let's see there without any legal documentation.
As an attorney, the answer to every question you will ever ask me is depends. When it comes to copyright questions, it depends. Capital, underlying italics, exclamation point, all the time. Because again, with the number of copyrights that go into a piece of music, the number of copyrights that go into a web page, it's staggering, and you probably don't know any of them. But actually, I'm going to get to that. Then you have the manual choreography. Choreography is a good example of the fixed expression. I can make up a dance right now. I'm not going to. But I could. And technically, that would be a work of authorship. But it wouldn't be protectable until I did something to fix it. So, for example, Chris is recording, so that would be fixation. Or if I wrote down the steps, or, I don't know how choreographers normally do it, but I don't know if they do the feet on the floor kind of thing, or what have you. But there has to be something. I can't just make a problem dance and say that's my copyright.
So how would you do it?
Well, what I actually do? That's the question.
So how do you copyright the choreography? You write it down? You
You-
don't
you-
do the feet on the floor.
Right.
Your shoes.
Well, that's how somebody tries
You
to teach
either
it.
teach it or you write it down. So writing it down then will be a way.
Writing it down, recording it, is another way. And actually, recording is probably the most common way, because, so when those dances are created, they're not going to stop and store and write down what they did. Recording is probably the most efficient way.
So you can record it, but the owner is the person who's doing in that.
The person who created it.
Okay.
So, for example, if you taught me to do it, and then I did it, and that, my performance of what was recorded, you would have the copyright in the choreography. Because you created the choreography. I didn't actually create it, I just performed it.
So how do I control?
But that's next.
Right, how do I control that?
Well,
That
this-
somebody would teach, that somebody would film you doing the choreography when I taught you.
Well, then that's the other important thing, is that if you create the choreography, what copyright protects? Copyright protects copy. It doesn't protect independent invention. So if somebody else comes up with it on their own, without actually having seen the works, that's not copyright. Matter of fact, I can prove that for the last 30 years I have been trapped in a desert island with nothing but time on it. And when they picked me up, I had the manuscript of 6 or 7 thick books about this kid named Harry Potter. He's a wizard, and just by some pure fluke, I just happened to crank out the same story. That would not be copyrighted. I was trapped on a desert island. There was no way I could have seen J.K. Rowling's books. There's no way I could have copied them because I didn't have access to them. And so in today's world, it's very hard to show that you didn't have access to something. But it's an extreme example of what copyright protects. It has to actually be copied. If someone can establish that they did not have access to your work, they just created it, then they're allowed to do it. So we go through the rest. I think everybody knows about that. I just want to stop on choreography because it's a good example of what fixation is like. Software. I think this is probably what's going to affect most people. Because this also does get into, there are some people that ask somebody, they go to software developers, they want to develop software. That might actually be the product they're going to sell. They have the idea. They know what they want the software to do, but they have no way of making the computer do what they want it to do. So they go to a software developer. But this also plays into just a web page, because the web page is, after all, software. Software is protectable in two ways: the source and the object code. And those are two different copyrights. They're protected as literary works. And then there's the user interface. So there's what's going on in the computer that we can't see. All right? Is everybody familiar with the difference between source and object code?
I'm a web developer.
I guess you do.
What's that?
I guess you do. The source code is when you guys, whenever you've seen software or a clip of software online or something, software, that's the source code. It's quote unquote human readable, meaning that there are some words and there are some instructions in there that most, you would recognize it as a language of some kind. Once that is written by the programmer, it is then compiled. Once it's compiled, it becomes object or machine code, That's what the computer reads. That's what tells the computer what to do. And that is not human readable. So it's 001, 001, 001, and it's just it's garbage. So those are two very different things. And that's important because if you are a developer, you can give somebody the object code and they will have the product they want. They will have the web page they wanted, they will have the software they wanted. But it won't run as it was handed to you. They will not have the ability to make changes to it because they don't have source code. So unless you deliver the source code, they have what you gave. And obviously, if you pay somebody a lot of money to develop something for you, you would like that, the source code.
How does that work for open source?
Well, yeah, open source is a completely different set of rules, but you still have copyright in it. It's just the enforcement mechanism. Because the open source thing is, that is a function of contract, really. You are entering into a contract by using open source code that you will, I don't know what version of GNU we're on now, but that you will have violated copyright, but by virtue of the contract, not by virtue of copyright law. If you don't follow the rules of the uniform license. So that's what it is. It's a license.
Yeah.
If the source code contains business logic, proprietary, whatever algorithms, whatever it is in your industry of work.
Right.
So imagine with open source code, programming languages open source code itself, business logic and stuff can be copyrighted, right?
It seems like it's more like a container sometimes instead of thing, but it's also like Android, for example, or Apple can open up and give their intellectual property away, right? Allows everyone to use it,
right.
Kind of like that license. So
Right.
when you create stuff using their platform, then you're creating stuff for them. Basically, and they make money on it because they sell it. You have to pay a royalty on anything you sell through like iTunes or anything.
Right. So that's right. So that's what you're talking about is a little bit different. So let's say I come up with a new method of calculating how many calories I'm going to eat today and I'm going to lose weight. Okay. Technically, that could be patented. That method, okay? But that's a method in my head. That's math that in my head is self-learning. And it might also, it might not be patented, but we'll assume that it is. So that's the method. So then you go to him and say, I got this guy. I want to make a computer program that people can buy. All right? The code he writes, now I'll get to this as far as ownership in a minute, but the code he writes is his. Even though it's incorporating your intellectual property, the code he wrote is his expression of that goal. You gave that same task to somebody else, they would write different code. So that's the other thing about copyright. Copyright will protect copy. That will stop someone from taking that software and copying it. If somebody else can figure out how you were doing it, they can go to a different developer and say, make me this program. And so if you don't patent line like that, then they will have copyright on it, and that will not be copyright infringement. They wrote completely new code.
Yeah, but if I hire him as an outsourced partner to do the code, I can request to have the copyrights or the rights to both source objects.
That's on that.
Okay.
And see, I would also add because a lot of coding is just like you can copy and paste from like other things. Like here's a tool, use that. But developers will also put like things inside the code to identify that it's their code. So
I recommend that every developer put a garbage line, at least one garbage line of code into their stuff. And not a line that says, hey, I'm Tom, this is my code. It has to look like code. Because if someone's going to copy it, if they're really, really motivated, they may go in and try to find that stuff and take it out. Whereas if it looks like code, they're not going to go line by line and see what each operation has done. So you should have a garbage line that looks like code but doesn't actually do anything. And that way, when you go to sue them for infringement, you can, the court will say, hey, here's the code, we want to see it. If that line is in there, how are they gonna say that they created a new vendor? They don't do. I mean, the odds are astronomical.
Is that what they do with images too? That's how they know picture using. Because like, for example, like I bought a stock image or no, I'm sorry. When I first started developing, I would just use images off Google. And then, you know, I've heard of some people getting calls from attorneys saying we're in
Letters.
because you used our
I
photo.
was thinking letters.
Letters.
You write letters.
Yeah. They said they would get a phone call, but so they would get a call, but sometimes the image would be so altered, like, you know, if you take a JPEG and then you alter it into a vector image and then you slice it or whatever, and it's like somehow there's still properties in that photo that allow them to track it.
Well, it is that was they can actually take it, you know, the JPEG is code. You know, so they can put back into the JPEG. The other thing to do now is like Google now. You can now search pictures on Google. You know, find me pictures that look like this. And then Google will find that's what they're using. That's what they're coming. That's how they're coming down. Or people aren't smart enough to change the name.
So you can't, I mean, if you Google some pics, there's no copyright little watermarks on it, and you use it just for like a presentation.
You can still be copyrighted.
But how do you know?
You know.
It's only when it's live, if it's like something like this.
So there is no copyright. There's no like I can go search patent database. I'm not saying that I'm going to find everything. I can go search a trademark database.
Those are good.
The copyright database will tell me who owns it and what they call it. That's it. I won't be able to see. And I have to know. I have to know who they are. And so it's not like, you know, if I want to search for tango stretch. I can sit down and search for tango stretch. I don't have to know who's using it or what. I can just search that word. I mean, you can't search for a picture on the copyright webpage. I mean, you have to type in the name of who you think owns it, and then a list will come up with all the stuff that they filed, and all it will have is the name. You won't be able to see what it is. You'll just be able to see what they call it.
So I do a Google search for some kind of product that I'm doing. Every time it comes up with pictures of shapes and pretties. I take one, put it in my product group, and I just use it just as a...
Technically copyright infringement.
It is.
Yeah. We're probably going to get into copyright infringement. Because, you know, there are
But you're right, the pictures all come up on the Google search. There's no, I mean, the problem is like something, they time out to trace it back. So
unless something expressly says that it's free to use, or it's copyrighted.
Google has a search though where you can like search for Creative Commons like images. And
Right.
I use those because they're like for commercial use. So you can use those.
Right. But those searches.
Under like advanced searches, you can look for Creative Commons that are good for commercial use or altering image.
But here's the challenge with that is, just because I upload something to commercial commons, doesn't mean I actually own it. So if I steal somebody else's picture and I upload it to commercial commons, say, oh, go ahead, use it. I didn't have the right to do that. You can still, that's the other thing. Is even though I say, yeah, go ahead, take it. They can still come after you. Because you didn't have the right, even though
It just gives you someone to go after.